Welcome to the philosophy of sleep. Tonight, you find yourself standing before heavy oak doors at the entrance of an ancient library, a place that exists outside the ordinary flow of time. Rain drums steadily against stone walls that have stood for centuries. Thunder rolls somewhere in the distance, deep and patient, as if the storm itself is in no hurry. You reach for the iron handle, cold beneath your palm, worn smooth by countless hands before yours, and push. The doors groan open on ancient hinges, revealing a vast hall lit only by candlelight. Inside, rows upon rows of wooden shelves stretch into shadow, each one packed with leather-bound volumes, their spines cracked with age and use. The air smells of old paper, of ink that has dried across decades, of beeswax melting slowly in brass holders. At the center of this space stands a long reading table, its surface scarred and darkened by time, and upon it rest two books, placed as if waiting for you. One is bound in deep burgundy leather, its pages edged in gold, the title barely visible in the flickering light, Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. The other is simpler, wrapped in faded cloth the color of saffron, its pages soft and worn, the Dhammapada, Teachings of the Buddha. Between these two books, a single candle burns. Its flame is steady, despite the drafts that move through this old place, and it casts a warm circle of light across the table. Beyond the windows, which rise in tall Gothic arches toward the ceiling, rain slides down the glass in slow rivers, and lightning occasionally illuminates the courtyard outside, where you can just make out the shapes of trees bending in the wind. The sound of the rain is constant, a soft drumming that seems to wrap around you, inviting you to slow down, to settle, to be here. You take a seat at the table. The chair beneath you is solid, unyielding, yet somehow comforting in its permanence. You notice as you settle in that familiar weight in your pocket or on the table beside you, your phone. Even here, in this timeless sanctuary, you feel its presence, that magnetic pull, that quiet hum of anxiety that whispers, even now, what are you missing? What notification just arrived? Who is trying to reach you? What crisis? What opportunity? What small validation might be waiting if you just glance down, just for a moment? This is the thing that has followed you here, the thing you cannot seem to escape. Notification anxiety. The constant low-level stress of knowing that at any moment something might demand your attention. A ping, a buzz, a red dot, a number in a circle. The digital world pulling at you again and again, fragmenting your focus, scattering your peace, until you no longer remember what it felt like to simply sit in silence without that nagging sense that you should be checking something. You are not alone in this. Millions lie awake at night, their minds still racing with the echoes of notifications received and anticipated. Professionals who cannot disconnect from work emails. Parents who feel the pressure to respond instantly to every message. Students who scroll through feeds until their eyes burn, unable to stop, unable to rest. The modern condition, always connected, never at peace. But here is what you have come to discover tonight. Two ancient teachers, from vastly different traditions and separated by centuries, both understood this restlessness. Not the technology, of course, but the deeper pattern underneath. The way the mind becomes enslaved to external demands. The way inner peace erodes when we allow the outside world to dictate our state of being. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, and Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha, both spent their lives contemplating this exact problem. How do we remain calm when the world constantly calls for our attention? How do we maintain inner stillness when everything around us is in motion, demanding, urgent, unceasing. Tonight, in this quiet library, we will explore their answers, not as abstract philosophy, but as practical medicine for your restless, notification-addicted mind. We will move slowly, very slowly. We have 3 full hours together, and there is nowhere we need to rush to. The rain will continue, the candle will burn, and gradually, gently, we will discover what these 2 great teachers have to offer you here, now, as you try to rest. What if the way we relate to our phones, to notifications, to the constant digital noise is really a question about how we relate to our own minds? What if the problem is not the technology itself, but something deeper, older, more fundamental about human consciousness? And what if the solution has been waiting for us, written in ancient texts for thousands of years? Prepare yourself. We have all night. We begin slowly, with the rain as our companion and these 2 ancient voices as our guides. Let us begin by noticing where we are. This library, this sanctuary, is not a place you'll find on any map. It exists in the space between waking and sleeping, between the noise of the world and the silence within. The walls around you are lined floor to ceiling with books, their leather bindings in shades of brown and black and deep crimson, their titles embossed in gold that catches the candlelight and seems to glow softly. Some of these volumes are so old that their pages have become brittle, their words fading into the creamy paper like memories dissolving into time. Others are newer, but still old by any modern measure, their spines stamped with dates from centuries past. The shelves are arranged in long rows that recede into darkness, and if you were to walk down one of these aisles, you would find section after section devoted to the great questions of human existence: philosophy, theology, poetry, science. All of it here, accumulated over lifetimes, waiting patiently to be read or remembered. But tonight, you do not need to search through the stacks. Tonight, everything you need is here, at this table, in these 2 books, and in the quiet space between them. The table itself is a masterpiece of old craftsmanship. Its wood is dark, almost black, polished by centuries of use until it gleams dully in the candlelight. The surface is not smooth. It is marked with the scratches and dents of countless scholars who sat here before you, carving their thoughts into margins, spilling ink, pressing too hard with their pens. There are water rings from cups of tea long since finished, and faint scorched marks where candles burned too low and singed the wood. This table has seen much, and it holds all of it without complaint, solid and enduring. On either side of the table, tall windows rise in pointed arches characteristic of Gothic architecture, their panes of glass held together by thin strips of lead. Through these windows, you can see the storm outside. The rain is not violent, but it is persistent, falling in sheets that blur the view of the courtyard beyond. Every so often, lightning flashes, illuminating the scene for just a moment. The dark shapes of trees, their branches tossing in the wind, the cobblestones glistening with water, the outline of other buildings, perhaps dormitories or lecture halls, all part of this ancient academy. Then the light fades, and the world outside returns to shadow, leaving only the sound of rain on glass and the occasional rumble of distant thunder. Inside, the air is cool, but not cold. You can feel the slight chill on your skin, a reminder that the storm outside is real, but here, within these walls, you are protected. The candles flicker occasionally when a draft finds its way through some hidden gap in the masonry, but they do not go out. There are perhaps a dozen of them scattered around the room, some in ornate brass holders, others in simple clay dishes, their flames small and patient, burning down slowly, wax pooling at their bases. The smell of this place is rich and layered. There is the mustiness of old books, that particular scent of paper breaking down into its component fibers over decades and centuries. There is the sharp, clean smell of beeswax from the candles, and underneath that, something faintly resinous, perhaps from the wood of the shelves or the desk, aged and releasing its oils slowly into the air. If you breathe deeply, you might also catch the mineral smell of the rain, the petrichor that drifts in through cracks around the windows, earthy and fresh. All of these scents combine to create an atmosphere that is both ancient and alive, a place where time moves differently, where the past and present coexist without conflict. Somewhere in the building, a clock ticks. You cannot see it, but you can hear it faintly, a steady rhythm that marks the passage of seconds, unhurried and precise. It is a comforting sound, a reminder that time continues, but also that there is no urgency here. The clock does not demand anything of you. It simply ticks, measuring moments that flow like water, each one arriving and departing without fanfare. You settle more deeply into your chair. Let your shoulders drop. Let your jaw unclench. Let your breathing find its natural rhythm, deep and slow, matching the pace of the rain. You are here now. Not in the rush of the day, not in the anxiety of tomorrow. Here, in this library, with these books, with this candle, with the storm as a gentle companion. This is where we will spend the next 3 hours, and there is nothing you need to do but listen and rest and let these ancient teachings work on you the way rain works on stone, gradually, patiently, changing everything. Now, let me tell you about the others who have come to this library before you. Imagine a young woman. We will call her Sarah, a graduate student in literature who arrives at the library every evening intending to work on her thesis. She carries with her a stack of books, a notebook, pens in different colors, and of course, her phone. She sets everything down at a table much like this one, lights a candle for ambiance, and opens her first book. She reads a paragraph, perhaps 2, and then she feels it, a subtle vibration, or perhaps she only imagines it. Either way, her hand moves automatically to her phone. She unlocks it. 3 new emails, a message on Slack from a colleague, a notification from Twitter. She tells herself she will just glance, just clear these quickly, and then return to her work. But the glance becomes 10 minutes. The messages require responses, and each response generates another notification, pulling her deeper into the digital world. By the time she looks up, half an hour has passed, and she has not read another word. She feels a familiar cocktail of emotions: guilt, frustration, a vague sense of having been cheated. She closes her phone, sets it face down on the table, and tries again to focus. Another paragraph, another buzz. The cycle repeats. By midnight, she is exhausted, her work barely touched, her mind scattered and frayed. She leaves the library defeated, promising herself that tomorrow will be different, knowing as she makes the promise that it will not be. Or consider Marcus, a middle-aged executive who comes to the academy to study philosophy as a respite from his high-pressure job. He sits in a corner of the library, a copy of Seneca's letters open before him, and he genuinely wants to absorb the Stoic wisdom contained in those pages. but every few minutes his phone lights up with notifications. Most of them are not urgent: a promotional email, a news alert about some political controversy, a message in a group chat that he is a part of but rarely participates in. Each notification is a small interruption, a tiny fracture in his attention. And each time he checks his phone, even if only for a second, it takes several minutes for his mind to fully return to what he was reading. He is not weak-willed. He is not lazy. He is simply human, and his nervous system has been trained over years to respond to these signals. The ping of a notification triggers a small release of dopamine, a reward chemical in the brain that reinforces the behavior. Over time, the response becomes automatic, bypassing conscious decision-making entirely. He checks his phone not because he wants to, but because his body has learned that this action might bring something interesting, something important, something that will make him feel, however briefly, that he is connected, informed, in control. The irony, of course, is that this checking does not bring control. It brings fragmentation. It scatters his attention across a dozen small concerns, none of which truly matter, and leaves him feeling more anxious, more scattered, more out of control than before. Then there is Amira, a younger student, perhaps in her early 20s, who uses her phone primarily for social media. She does not come to the library to study, exactly, but to be in a space that feels quiet and serious, hoping that the atmosphere will calm her restless mind. She sits with her phone in her lap, scrolling through Instagram, pausing occasionally to double-tap a photo, to read a caption, to watch a short video. She tells herself that she is just relaxing, just unwinding after a long day, but as she scrolls, she feels a tightness building in her chest. Her friends are at parties, traveling, getting engaged, starting new jobs, living lives that seem fuller, more exciting, more meaningful than hers. Each post is a small reminder of what she is not doing, where she is not, who she is not with. The notifications that arrive on her phone are not just messages or alerts, they are evidence of a world moving forward without her, and the fear that she is being left behind grows with each buzz, each ping, each red dot that appears in the corner of an app icon. These three people are different in many ways, but they share a common affliction. They have lost the ability to be fully present in the moment they are in. Their attention, their peace, their sense of self-worth are all held hostage by the devices they carry. And the notifications, those small digital interruptions, are the chains that bind them. Not physical chains, of course, but something more insidious, the sense that they must always be available, always responsive, always aware of what is happening in the vast network of human activity that exists beyond the walls of this library. This is notification anxiety. It is the low-level, constant stress that comes from knowing that at any moment something might demand your attention. It is the feeling of being perpetually on call, unable to fully rest, unable to fully focus because part of your mind is always listening for the next ping. Psychologists have studied this phenomenon extensively. They have found that even the mere presence of a phone, even if it is silent and face down, reduces cognitive capacity. The brain allocates a small portion of its resources to monitoring the device, just in case something important happens. This means that you are never fully engaged with the task in front of you, never fully at rest, never fully yourself. You are divided, fragmented, scattered. And this fragmentation is exhausting. It depletes your mental energy. It erodes your ability to concentrate. It makes everything harder, more effortful, less satisfying. Over time, it can lead to burnout, to anxiety disorders, to a pervasive sense of being overwhelmed by life. The modern condition so celebrated for its connectivity, its speed, its efficiency, has created in many of us a profound inner chaos, a restlessness that follows us even into spaces that should be sanctuaries of peace. But here is where the story takes a turn, because this problem, though it feels uniquely modern, is not new. The technology is new, the speed and scale are new, but the underlying pattern, the way the mind becomes enslaved to external demands, the way peace erodes when we allow the outside world to dictate our inner state, this is ancient. And two great teachers from two very different traditions spent their lives contemplating this exact issue and offering practices to address it. Marcus Aurelius lived in the 2nd century AD, during the height of the Roman Empire. He was not born to be emperor. That role was thrust upon him when he was adopted by the Emperor Antoninus Pius. As a young man, Marcus was more interested in philosophy than politics, drawn particularly to Stoicism, a school of thought that emphasized rationality, virtue, and inner tranquility. But when he became emperor, he found himself at the center of a vast and tumultuous world. He was responsible for the welfare of millions. He had to manage wars, plagues, political intrigue, economic crises, betrayals by trusted allies. Every day brought a flood of information, of demands, of decisions that needed to be made immediately and with potentially catastrophic consequences if made poorly. In his private writings, which were never intended for publication, and which we now know as the Meditations, Marcus reflected on how to maintain inner peace amid this external chaos. He wrote about the importance of focusing only on what is within one's control and letting go of what is not. He wrote about the need to examine one's own thoughts and judgments, recognizing that suffering often comes not from events themselves, but from our interpretations of those events. He wrote about the practice of returning again and again to the present moment, because it is only in the present that we have any power to act, to choose, to be at peace. His philosophy was not abstract or theoretical. It was a practical toolkit for surviving with sanity and dignity intact in a world that constantly demanded more than he felt capable of giving. Now, imagine if Marcus Aurelius had carried a smartphone. Imagine if every crisis, every urgent message, every piece of gossip or bad news from across the empire had arrived in his pocket as a push notification. How would he have coped? What would he have advised? The answer, I believe, is already written in his Meditations, waiting to be applied to our modern situation. Marcus understood that the mind, if left untrained, will chase after every external stimulus, will be blown about by every piece of news, every demand, every fear. And he developed practices to train the mind to be still, to be discerning, to choose where to direct attention and what to ignore. On the other side of the world, and a few centuries earlier, Siddhartha Gautama, who became known as the Buddha, faced a different but related challenge. He was born a prince, sheltered from the suffering of the world, but when he ventured outside the palace walls and encountered sickness, old age, and death, he was struck by a profound question. Why do humans suffer? And is there a way to end that suffering? He left his comfortable life and spent years seeking the answer through meditation, asceticism, and study. Eventually, sitting under a tree, he attained what he called enlightenment, a deep insight into the nature of suffering and the path to liberation. The Buddha's teachings, later compiled into texts like the Dhammapada, emphasized the role of craving and attachment in creating suffering. He observed that the mind is constantly reaching out, grasping after pleasant experiences and pushing away unpleasant ones. This reaching, this grasping, this constant dissatisfaction with what is creates a restless hunger that can never be fully satisfied. No matter what you acquire, no matter what pleasure you experience, the mind soon grows bored or anxious and begins craving something else. The solution, the Buddha taught, is not to get more or better things, but to change your relationship with craving itself, to see it, to understand it, and to let it go. If the Buddha were alive today, watching us with our phones, I believe he would recognize immediately what is happening. He would see the craving mind in action. The compulsion to check notifications is a form of craving. The anxiety that arises when the phone is not nearby is a form of attachment. The endless scrolling through feeds is the mind seeking stimulation, seeking something, anything, to fill a sense of lack that it mistakenly believes can be filled by external experiences. And he would offer the same teaching he offered 2,500 years ago. Notice the craving. Watch it. Do not judge it or fight it. Simply see it for what it is. And in that seeing, in that mindful awareness, the craving begins to lose its power. So here we have two paths, two approaches to the same fundamental problem. Stoicism, represented by Marcus Aurelius, emphasizes rational control, the dichotomy of what we can and cannot control, and the importance of aligning our will with reality as it is, rather than as we wish it to be. Buddhism, represented by the Buddha, emphasizes mindfulness, the observation of mental phenomena without attachment, and the cultivation of equanimity, a deep calm that is not disturbed by the ups and downs of life. These are different languages, different frameworks, but they point toward a similar destination, inner peace that is not dependent on external conditions. Tonight, we will explore both paths. We will see how Stoicism might help you deal with the constant barrage of notifications, the feeling that you must respond immediately, the anxiety that you are somehow failing if you do not keep up, and we will see how Buddhism might help you understand the deeper craving underneath, the way your mind has been trained to seek satisfaction in the glow of a screen, and how you can gently retrain it to find peace in stillness. We will move slowly, allowing these ideas to unfold at the pace of the rain outside, and by the time we reach the end of this long night, you may find that your relationship with your phone and with your own mind has begun to shift in subtle but profound ways. But to begin this journey, we must first truly understand the problem, not just intellectually, but viscerally. We must feel, in our own experience, how the notifications have taken hold of us, how they have fragmented our attention and eroded our peace. And so, in the next part of this night, we will look more closely at the patterns, the specific ways in which notification anxiety manifests in daily life, and how these patterns are not just about technology, but about something deeper in human consciousness. The problem stretches far beyond a glowing screen. It reaches into the very way we experience ourselves, the way we construct our sense of identity and worth, the way we relate to the world and to each other. And when we truly listen to what Marcus Aurelius and the Buddha are saying, when we sit with their teachings over time, they force us to confront an uncomfortable possibility, that the notifications are not the real problem, they are only a symptom. The real problem is the restless mind itself, the mind that craves, that grasps, that cannot be still. And the solution is not to destroy the technology, though we might choose to limit it, but to transform our relationship with our own consciousness. That is the work ahead. Let us continue. The storm continues outside the tall windows, but by now it has become a familiar backdrop, a steady presence rather than a source of disturbance. The rain is like a soft curtain between you and the rest of the world, blurring its outlines, muting its noise. Inside the library, the candle on the table between Marcus Aurelius and the Buddha burns steadily, its pool of melted wax deepening, its flame unwavering. You have settled into this place, into this moment, and your mind has begun to slow, to lengthen its breaths, to soften around the edges. To understand how deeply notifications have woven themselves into your life, we will move through a series of gentle scenes, small vignettes that may feel familiar. Each one is like a page from a shared book of modern experience. As you listen, you may recognize yourself or someone you know. There is no judgment here, only observation, only the willingness to see clearly what is happening and to meet it with curiosity and kindness. Imagine first the very beginning of the day. An alarm sounds, perhaps on your phone itself. Your eyes open, not fully, a thin slice of consciousness letting in the blurry shapes of the room. Before you have taken a deep breath, before you have felt the weight of your body against the mattress, your hand reaches. It knows the path by heart now. Over the sheets, toward the glowing rectangle on the nightstand. Your fingers close around it, and in that movement, your day begins. Not with your own thoughts, not with your own presence, but with the world. You unlock the screen. Bright light floods your still adjusting eyes. There is the time, already later than you wish it were. There are the icons, small and insistent. A number on your email app, a message notification, perhaps a few social media alerts, news headlines, all of them calling to you, all of them saying, in their own wordless way, look here, be here, start here. You tell yourself you will just check quickly, just clear the most important things. But each piece of information pulls you a little further out of yourself. An email from work triggers a thread of worry about the day ahead. A message from a friend sparks a story in your mind about what they might mean, what you should reply. A news alert brings images of distant events crashing into the quiet of your bedroom, filling your still waking mind with conflict, disaster, urgency. A social media notification draws you into the carefully curated lives of others, and you begin, without meaning to compare your just woken reality with their polished highlights. In Stoic language, what has happened is simple. You have handed over the beginning of your day to things outside your control. You have allowed external impressions to rush in before you have had a chance to anchor yourself in what is truly yours. Your intentions, your values, your choice of how to meet the day. Marcus would gently suggest a different order. First, remember who you are. Remember that you are a rational being, capable of choosing your responses. Remember that your worth does not depend on what has accumulated in your inbox overnight. Only then, from that grounded place, approach the messages, the news, the tasks. But in our time, the habit has reversed. The phone speaks first. The self speaks later, if at all. From the perspective of Buddhism and Zen, the pattern looks like this. The mind, upon waking, is naturally clear, spacious, like a still pond. Then the stones begin to fall. Each notification is a stone dropped into the water, sending out ripples of thought, of emotion, of reaction. The water is soon filled with waves, and the original clarity is lost. The Buddha would not scold you for this. He would simply invite you to notice the craving at work, the craving to know, to be up to date, to not miss anything, the craving to feel in control by gathering information, even though the information itself often brings more unease than peace. Consider another moment later in the day. You are at work or in class or studying at a desk like this one. You intend to focus. You have a task before you that requires your full attention. The room around you may even be quiet, the way this library is quiet. And yet, inside your pocket or face down beside your notebook, your phone rests like a small sleeping animal. Even when it does not move, part of your mind is listening for it, waiting, anticipating. A notification appears. Perhaps you do not even hear it. Perhaps the sound is turned off. But out of the corner of your eye, you see the screen light up. A small banner slides down from the top. A name, a few words. Your concentration splinters. For a moment, you try to resist. You tell yourself you will look later, but the thought has already taken root. What if it is important? What if delaying your response sends the wrong message? What if you forget by the time you have finished your work? The mind spins possibilities so quickly that, almost without deciding, your hand moves. You check. Researchers call this constant readiness for interruption attentional fragmentation. The brain, pulled again and again from one focus to another, loses its ability to sink deeply into any task. It becomes accustomed to shallowness, to scanning rather than concentrating. The Stoics would say that you have allowed your ruling faculty, the part of you that can choose what to attend to be overrun by impressions. Instead of deciding which signals deserve your energy, you are letting every signal decide for you. From the Zen perspective, this moment is a chance to observe how quickly a thought can take over. One small visual cue, a lit screen, becomes the seed of a whole chain of mental events: curiosity, concern, urgency, self-doubt. If you watch closely, you can almost feel each link forming. The practice is not to condemn yourself for checking, but to become quietly intimate with that process, to see how a single spark becomes a brush fire of agitation, and to remember, softly, that you are not the fire. You are the space in which it burns. Now imagine a different kind of night. It is very late. The world around you has grown quiet. Perhaps the city hum still exists in the distance, but your room is dim and still. You are exhausted. Your body longs for sleep. You lie in bed, the blankets pulled up around you, the pillow cradling your head. The perfect conditions for rest are present, and yet your mind is not ready to let go. Your phone is on the bedside table. You tell yourself you will set an alarm and then put it away. You do set the alarm, but your finger hesitates before closing the app. Almost of its own accord, it drifts toward another icon, a news app, a social feed, a messaging platform. Just for a moment, you think, just to check one more time before I sleep. Minutes pass, then half an hour, then an hour. You scroll through headlines, many of them disturbing: conflict in distant countries, economic worries, environmental crises. Each story tugs at your nervous system, stimulating concern and helplessness in equal measure. Or you scroll through social images, seeing people awake in other time zones, still active, still doing, still sharing. The world does not sleep, you realize. It never stops, and neither, it seems, can you. This is doom scrolling, a term coined to describe the habit of consuming an endless stream of negative news late into the night. Psychologists note that this behavior often arises from a desire for control. Faced with uncertainty, the mind seeks more information, believing that if it just knows enough, it will feel safer. But the information rarely brings safety. Instead, it keeps the nervous system on high alert, flooding the body with stress hormones when it most needs to wind down. Marcus Aurelius would recognize this impulse. In his time, the news came in the form of reports from generals, letters from governors, rumors from the streets of Rome. He could have spent all his time chasing every piece of information, trying to foresee every possible outcome, trying to control what could not be controlled. But in his meditations, he reminds himself again and again that the only thing truly his is his own mind. Events will unfold as they will. His task is to meet them with virtue, with reason, with composure, not to exhaust himself in a futile attempt to manage what lies beyond his reach. The Buddha, too, would see doom scrolling as a manifestation of craving and aversion. Craving for a sense of security, aversion to the discomfort of not knowing. The practice he would offer is simple, though not always easy. Notice the urge to keep reading, to keep scrolling, to seek one more article that might finally ease your worry. Name it gently. Ah, here is fear. Here is wanting to know. Here is my mind trying to escape this moment. Then return again and again to the body, to the breath, to the simple reality that right now, in this room, you are safe. The world may be turbulent, but in this bed, in this moment, there is no immediate threat. You can allow your vigilance to rest. There is another pattern, quieter but equally powerful. You are in the middle of a conversation with someone you care about. Perhaps you are sharing a meal, or walking together through a park, or sitting across from each other in a cafe. The setting is pleasant, the company is good, and yet every few minutes there is a small disruption, a sound from your phone, a flash of light from theirs. One of you glances down just for a second. The thread of the conversation thins, frays, and must be picked up again. Over time, this becomes normal. No one thinks it strange that attention falters every few minutes. But something delicate is lost. The sense of being fully with another person, of offering them your undivided presence, becomes rare. Relationships begin to feel shallow, not because the feelings are shallow, but because the moments in which they are expressed are constantly interrupted. The Stoics put great value on attention as a moral act. To attend fully to someone is to honor their humanity, to treat them as an end in themselves rather than a means to your own gratification. When your attention is constantly split, you are never fully giving yourself to the moment, to the person, to the task. Marcus might ask you gently whether this is the kind of life you wish to live, a life of perpetual partial presence. From the vantage point of Zen, each interruption is an opportunity to wake up. You notice that your hand has moved to your phone in the middle of a sentence. You notice that your eyes have been pulled away from the person in front of you toward a glowing screen. In that noticing, you can choose. You can smile inwardly, recognizing the strength of the habit, and then simply put the phone back down. Return with your whole awareness to the face, the voice, the moment. This simple act of returning, repeated many times, is itself a form of meditation. These patterns, the morning check, the fractured focus at work, the late-night doom scrolling, the distracted conversations, are like small currents in a larger river. Each one, on its own, might seem trivial, but together they shape the landscape of your days and nights. They teach your nervous system to live in a state of constant readiness, constant partial engagement, constant low-level alarm. But these are only small ripples on the surface of something deeper. Beneath them lie more fundamental shifts in how you experience yourself and the world, shifts that Marcus Aurelius and the Buddha would recognize as profound spiritual challenges of any age. As the night moves on, the library grows even quieter. The clock somewhere in the building continues its steady ticking, but now it seems to blend into the background, like an old friend whose presence you feel more than you hear. The rain softens, turning from steady drumming to a gentle hush against the windows. The candle between the two books burns lower, its flame smaller now, but no less steady. You feel your own body sinking more deeply into the chair, muscles letting go of layers of tension you did not realize you were holding. It is in this softened state that we can begin to look at the deeper implications of notification anxiety. Not just the behaviors, but the ways those behaviors shape who you are becoming. One of the most subtle effects of constant connectivity is the erosion of a stable sense of self. When your attention is continually pulled outward toward what others are saying, doing, thinking, it becomes harder to hear your own voice. You begin to define yourself in relation to the stream of information that flows toward you. You are the person who responds quickly to messages, the person who is always informed, the person who is available, who is reachable. Or, on social platforms, you become the persona you have constructed, the curated images, the crafted captions, the pattern of posts that together create an impression of a life. Marcus Aurelius wrote to himself as a way of anchoring his identity in something deeper than the opinions of others. In his meditations, he reminds himself repeatedly that the only thing that truly belongs to him is his own mind, his own faculty of judgment. Everything else, reputation, status, even his body, is subject to forces beyond his control. If he were to base his sense of self on those things, he would be at the mercy of every fluctuation of fortune, every rumor in the marketplace, every whim of the crowd. In our time, the whims of the crowd are delivered to us through screens. A message left unanswered for an hour might be interpreted as coldness. A lack of immediate response to a work email might be seen as negligence. Fewer likes on a post than usual might feel like a subtle rejection. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, your sense of self begins to oscillate in response to these signals. You feel worthy when the notifications are plentiful and positive. You feel diminished when they are sparse or critical. Your inner life takes on the volatility of a stock market, rising and falling with each new tick of data. From a Buddhist perspective, this is a vivid example of what is called clinging. You cling to an image of yourself, to the idea of being appreciated, being approved of, being seen in a certain light. When reality aligns with this image, when the messages are affectionate, the feedback is positive, the notifications are many, you feel relief, even joy. When reality does not align, when messages go unanswered, when responses are delayed, when recognition is less than expected, you feel suffering. Not because anything fundamental about you has changed, but because your attachment to a particular image of yourself has been threatened. The more you tie your identity to these external signs, the more fragile it becomes. A single critical comment can feel like a deep wound. A period of silence from others can feel like evidence that you have somehow vanished, that you no longer exist in the minds of those whose attention you crave. This is not a stable foundation on which to build a life. Marcus would encourage you to return, again and again, to the question, who am I really, independent of what others say or do? Am I my notifications? Am I the speed of my responses? Am I the number beside the little bell icon? Or am I something quieter, something steadier, something that remains even when all the devices are turned off and put away? The Buddha would point you toward the experience of self as a process rather than a thing. Thoughts arise, feelings arise, sensations arise, and you say, "This is me, this is mine." But if you look closely, you see that none of these are permanent. They come and go like clouds moving across the sky. The suffering comes when you try to fix them, to make them solid, to build a permanent identity out of something inherently fluid. Notification anxiety, in this light, is the mind desperately trying to grasp onto something that proves, I am here, I matter, I am connected. But the proof never lasts. The notification is read and disappears. The sense of security fades, and the craving for the next signal begins anew. Another deep effect of constant notifications is the way they make stillness feel uncomfortable, even threatening. When you are used to frequent stimulation, to the small jolt that comes with each new alert, silence can feel like a void, a space where something is missing. The absence of pings can be experienced not as peace, but as a kind of sensory hunger. Your nervous system has adapted to a diet of constant input, and when that input stops, it protests. In such moments, sitting quietly in a room alone can feel almost unbearable. Your mind begins to search frantically for something to latch onto. A memory, a worry, a plan.
Failing that, it reaches for the easiest source of stimulation available, the phone. Not because there is anything in particular you need to see, but because the prospect of simply being with yourself, without distraction, has become unfamiliar. Pascal, a thinker much later than Marcus, but long before smartphones, observed that many of our problems arise from our inability to sit quietly in a room. Marcus would agree. He trained himself, through daily reflection, to find contentment in the present moment, regardless of external circumstances. The Buddha went even further, spending long periods in meditation, sitting with whatever arose in his mind, fear, boredom, restlessness, joy, without trying to escape or cling to any of it. From a Zen perspective, the discomfort you feel in stillness is not a sign that something is wrong. It is a sign that something is waking up. When the usual distractions are removed, the mind begins to show you what has been there all along: unresolved emotions, unexamined fears, questions about meaning and purpose that you have been too busy to consider. The phone, with its endless stream of small amusements and concerns, acts like a shield against these deeper encounters with yourself. It allows you to skim along the surface of your own life without ever diving in. There is also the matter of how notifications reshape your sense of time. When every moment is a potential interruption, it becomes difficult to experience time as a continuous flow. Instead, it breaks into fragments, each one defined by what appeared on your screen. The day becomes a series of alerts, a string of small events that pull you from one focus to another. The Stoics valued what we might call deep time, stretches of attention devoted to contemplation, to meaningful work, to conversation, to simply being. Marcus often reminded himself that life is short, that time is precious, and that squandering it on trivialities is a kind of self-betrayal. He wrote as if speaking to you now, "Do not waste the remainder of your life in thoughts about others, when you do not refer your thoughts to some object of common utility." In other words, be careful where you spend your limited attention. In a world of constant notifications, it becomes easy to spend large portions of your life in what might be called shattered time. Seconds and minutes scattered throughout the day, none of them long enough to allow for depth, all of them consumed by reacting to whatever has just appeared. The cumulative effect is that you may reach the end of a day, a week, a year, and feel that you have been very busy, very engaged, very connected, and yet somehow untouched by your own life. Buddhism teaches the impermanence of all things, including moments. Each breath arises and passes away. Each thought appears and dissolves. Each notification arrives and is forgotten. When you are always leaning into the next alert, the next update, the next message, you miss the only moment that truly exists, this one. The present slips through your fingers while your mind chases phantoms in the past and future. The phone, then, is not the enemy. It is a mirror. It reflects back to you the tendencies of your own mind, its cravings, its fears, its habitual patterns. Notification anxiety is a symptom of a deeper restlessness, a deeper uncertainty about where your worth truly lies and how to find peace in a world that never stops speaking. Marcus Aurelius and the Buddha would agree on this much. Peace does not come from silencing the world. The world has always been noisy in one way or another. Peace comes from changing your relationship to that noise. Marcus would say that peace begins the moment you stop bargaining with reality, the moment you stop insisting that events conform to your wishes, and instead focus on responding with wisdom and virtue to whatever arises. The Buddha would say that peace begins the moment you stop bargaining with your own mind, the moment you stop trying to force certain thoughts or feelings to appear or disappear, and instead meet them all with calm awareness. The problem, it seems, stretches far beyond a glowing screen. It reaches into the very way you experience yourself. Are you a person who is constantly at the mercy of external signals, whose inner life rises and falls with each ping and buzz? Or are you a person who can observe these signals, decide which ones to answer and which ones to let pass, and remain rooted in a deeper sense of self that does not depend on them? In the next part of our journey, we will turn more fully toward practice. We will listen as Marcus and the Buddha, these two quiet teachers across time, offer you concrete ways to reclaim your mind from the tyranny of notifications, not by rejecting technology entirely, but by learning to use it from a place of steadiness, clarity, and choice. We will move slowly, as we have been, allowing their words to sink into the soft soil of your tired mind, so that new habits, new ways of relating to your phone and to your own thoughts can take root. For now, rest in this understanding. The anxiety you feel around notifications is not a personal failing. It is a natural response to a world designed to capture your attention. And yet within you, there remains a quiet place that has never been touched by any notification. A part of you that is larger than any screen, older than any technology. That is the place we are slowly returning to, one breath, one insight, one gentle turning inward at a time.
We have now crossed the halfway point of the night together. An hour and a half has passed since you first entered this library, and the world outside has grown even quieter. The storm that accompanied your arrival has not disappeared, but it has gentled into something softer, more like a whisper than a voice. The rain continues its patient work, falling on stone and glass and earth, washing everything slowly clean. Inside, the candle between the two books has burned down considerably. You might notice that new candles have been lit around the room, their flames small and steady, as if tended by some unseen librarian who moves through the shadows, ensuring that the light never fails entirely. Your body has settled deeply now into the chair. Or perhaps you have moved to a more comfortable place, lying on a worn leather sofa near the shelves, or curled in a reading nook with cushions that smell faintly of lavender and old wool. Your breathing has slowed. Your thoughts have begun to thin, to space themselves out like drops of rain rather than a downpour. This is the perfect state for what comes next, not active learning, but absorption. The kind of understanding that happens when you stop trying to grasp and simply allow wisdom to settle into you the way moonlight settles on still water. Now we turn more fully to the teachings themselves, to the practical frameworks that Marcus Aurelius and the Buddha offer for living with greater peace in a world that constantly demands your attention. These are not abstract philosophies meant for scholars in distant centuries. They are living tools, practices that you can take up tonight, tomorrow morning, every day for the rest of your life. We will move through them slowly, turning each one over like a smooth stone found by a riverbank, feeling its weight, noticing its shape, considering how it might fit into the architecture of your own days. Let us begin with the Stoic framework, as articulated by Marcus Aurelius in his private writings. At the heart of Stoicism is a deceptively simple idea. There are things within your control and things outside your control. Your task, your only real task, is to focus your energy on the former and accept the latter with grace. This principle is often called the dichotomy of control, and once you truly understand it, it has the power to transform your entire relationship with notification anxiety. Consider your phone for a moment. When a notification appears, what is within your control? You cannot control whether the notification arrives. That is determined by someone else's action. A person sending a message, a system generating an alert, an algorithm deciding to show you something. You cannot control the content of that notification, whether it is pleasant or stressful, important or trivial. You cannot control what emotions arise in response to it. The flutter of anxiety, the spark of curiosity, the sinking feeling of being overwhelmed. These are all automatic responses of your nervous system, shaped by years of conditioning. But here is what you can control: whether you check the notification immediately or later, whether you respond right away or give yourself time to consider your response, whether you allow that single alert to derail your focus or choose to set it aside until a designated time, whether you interpret the notification as a demand or as information that you can engage with on your own terms. These choices, small as they may seem, are entirely yours. They belong to you in a way that nothing external ever can. Marcus would encourage you to make this distinction clear and vivid in your mind. Each time a notification arrives, pause for just a moment. A single breath is enough, and recognize this event is outside my control. It has happened, but my response, that is mine. I can choose panic, or I can choose calm. I can choose immediate reaction, or I can choose thoughtful delay. The notification has no power over me unless I grant it that power through my own judgment. This is not about suppressing your feelings or pretending that notifications do not affect you. Marcus was a deeply feeling person. His writings are full of grief, frustration, and weariness. The Stoic path is not about becoming emotionless, but about recognizing that your interpretations and choices are the hinge on which your peace turns. Two people can receive the same urgent notification: a work crisis, a family concern, a piece of troubling news. One person allows it to consume them, to scatter their thoughts, to ruin their evening. Another person acknowledges the difficulty, decides what action, if any, they can take right now, and then returns to presence. The external circumstance is the same. The inner experience is radically different. One of the most powerful practices Marcus used was a kind of cognitive rehearsal. In the mornings, he would imagine the difficulties he might face that day, difficult people, frustrating setbacks, disappointments. Not to make himself anxious, but to prepare his mind to meet these things with equanimity. He would remind himself that such events are natural, that they do not happen to him, but simply happen, and that his task is to respond with virtue rather than being swept away by immediate reactions. You can do this with notifications. Before you even check your phone in the morning, you might spend a moment considering, today I will likely receive messages that demand something of me. I will likely see news that troubles me. I will likely encounter information that tries to pull my attention in many directions at once. This is the nature of the connected world. I do not need to be surprised or offended by it. I can decide now, in this moment of calm, how I will meet it. I will meet it with discernment. I will decide which calls for my attention are aligned with my values and which are not. I will protect my inner peace not by shutting out the world, but by choosing carefully where I direct my limited energy. There is also the Stoic practice of distinguishing between what is truly urgent and what merely feels urgent. Most notifications, if you examine them honestly, are not urgent in any meaningful sense. A social media like can wait. A non-emergency email can wait. Even many work messages, while they may carry the tone of urgency, do not actually require an immediate response. The feeling of urgency is often manufactured, either by the design of the platform, which uses psychological triggers to make you feel you must check now, or by your own anxiety about missing something, being perceived as slow, falling behind. Marcus would ask you to test this urgency against reality. What is the actual consequence of waiting an hour to respond? What is the actual consequence of not responding at all? Often you will find that the consequence is minor or non-existent. The world continues. Relationships endure. The person who messaged you does not dissolve into despair because you did not reply within 5 minutes. And in the space created by that delay, you have the chance to respond more thoughtfully, more authentically, more in line with the person you actually want to be. Now let us turn to the Buddha's framework, which approaches the same problem from a different angle, but arrives at a remarkably similar destination. The Buddha taught that suffering arises from tanha, a word often translated as craving or thirst. This is not just the desire for pleasant things, though it includes that. It is a deeper restlessness, a sense that this moment as it is not enough. The mind constantly reaches out, grasping for what it does not have, pushing away what it does not want, trying to rearrange reality into a more satisfying configuration. Notification anxiety from this perspective is a perfect example of tanha in action. When the phone buzzes, there is an immediate craving to know what the notification says. When you see a message, there is a craving to respond, to clear the notification, to return the little number to 0. When you open social media, there is a craving for something interesting, something new, something that will alleviate the faint sense of boredom or emptiness that seems to hover at the edges of your awareness. And each time you satisfy one craving, another arises to take its place. The mind is never satisfied for long. It has been trained to seek and seek and seek again. The Buddha's response to this is not to try to eliminate craving through force. You cannot simply command yourself to stop wanting any more than you can command a river to stop flowing. Instead, the practice is to become aware of the craving, to see it clearly as it arises without judgment, to notice with a kind of gentle curiosity, oh, there is the urge to check my phone. There is the craving to know. There is the fear of missing something. In Zen practice, this noticing is sometimes called just sitting, or shikantaza. You sit still and you watch the mind. Thoughts arise, sensations arise, urges arise. You do not try to stop them or indulge them, you simply observe. A thought about checking your phone appears, you note it, thinking. The thought passes, another one comes, worrying about what I might have missed. You note it, it passes too. Slowly through this practice of patient observation, the thoughts and urges lose some of their power. They are revealed to be what they always were, temporary phenomena, clouds drifting across the sky of your awareness. You are not the clouds, you are the sky. This practice can be applied directly to notifications. When you feel the pull to check your phone, instead of immediately obeying, you pause. You take a breath. You notice there is the craving. There is the feeling of tension, of incompleteness that wants to be resolved by looking. And you sit with that feeling. You do not have to act on it, you can simply feel it, the way you might feel a cool breeze on your skin, or the warmth of sunlight. It is just a sensation. It will change. Everything changes. At first, this may be uncomfortable. The craving will intensify. It will argue with you. But what if it's important? What if someone needs me? What if I'm missing something crucial? These thoughts are not enemies. They are just the mind doing what it has been trained to do. You can listen to them with compassion, the way you might listen to a child who is afraid of the dark. You can acknowledge them without obeying them. Yes, I hear you. Thank you for trying to protect me. But right now, I am choosing to sit here, to breathe, to be present. Over time, with practice, the craving begins to loosen its grip, not because you have fought it, but because you have stopped feeding it. Each time you notice the urge and do not act on it, you are teaching your nervous system a new pattern. It is okay not to check immediately. It is okay to let the notification wait. It is okay to be present in this moment without knowing what every alert says. This is freedom, not from the phone, but from the compulsion to check it constantly. The Buddha also taught about what he called the middle way. This is the path between two extremes, indulgence and asceticism. In the context of technology, indulgence would be constant unthinking engagement with every notification, every alert, every ping. Asceticism would be completely renouncing the phone, cutting yourself off from all digital communication. The middle way is neither. It is using the phone consciously, deliberately, as a tool that serves your life rather than allowing it to become a master that you serve. This might look like designated times for checking messages, perhaps in the morning after you have had a chance to center yourself with a few moments of quiet reflection, perhaps at midday when you take a break from work, perhaps in the evening before you begin winding down for sleep. Outside of those times, the phone is set aside, placed in another room, or simply ignored.
You hear the small sound it makes as it comes to rest. And then you take your hand away. You step back. There is a physical distance now between you and the device. You have created space. Notice what happens in your body. Does anxiety arise? A sense of vulnerability, as if you have put down a shield. Does relief arise? A sense of lightness, as if you have set down a burden.
or perhaps both at once. A complex mixture of feelings. Whatever arises, meet it with kindness. Say to yourself, silently or aloud, "It is okay to feel this. I am safe. I am here." Now watch the screen of the phone. If it is still lit, watch it dim. The brightness fades gradually, the colors softening, the glow withdrawing until the screen is dark. If it is already dark, imagine this process. The light retreating, the device going quiet, becoming inert. As you watch or imagine this, feel something in your own mind beginning to dim as well. The mental chatter, the planning and worrying and reviewing, starting to soften, to lose some of its intensity. You turn away from the table now. You walk to a comfortable place in the library, the worn sofa, or the cushioned reading nook, or perhaps a simple chair near the window where you can hear the rain more clearly. You sit, or lie down, arranging yourself in a position that allows your body to fully release its weight. Feel the support beneath you, the firmness of the cushion, the solidity of the structure holding you up. You do not have to hold yourself together. You can let go. Bring your attention now to your breath. Not to change it, but simply to notice it. Air moving in through your nostrils, cool and fresh. Air moving out, warmer, softer. The gentle rise and fall of your chest and belly. The breath has been with you all night, faithful and steady, and now you give it your full attention. Breathe in slowly, counting to 4 in your mind. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath gently for 4 counts. 1, 2, 3, 4. Release the breath slowly for 4 counts. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold the emptiness for 4 counts. 1, 2, 3, 4. Repeat this pattern several times, allowing it to become a rhythm that carries you deeper into relaxation. As you breathe, begin to listen to the sounds around you. The rain is still falling, a soft percussion on the windows and the roof. Somewhere, water is dripping, perhaps from a gutter. A slow, steady drip that marks time without urgency. The clock continues its ticking, so familiar now that it is almost part of the silence. Maybe the wind stirs outside, a long exhalation that moves through the trees. Let these sounds become a kind of music, a lullaby that the world is singing just for you. Now, as you rest in this place of breath and sound, let these words move through your awareness like gentle waves on a shore. You do not have to hold on to them or memorize them. Just let them wash over you, trusting that your deeper self will absorb what it needs. You do not have to answer every call of your mind. The mind will generate thoughts, urges, worries, a constant stream of inner speech. But you are not obligated to follow every thought down its path, to engage with every worry, to satisfy every urge. You can notice a thought, acknowledge it, and then return to your breath. You can notice an urge to check your phone and simply let it sit there, unsatisfied, until it fades on its own. This is not suppression. This is discernment. You are learning to distinguish between the voice of wisdom and the voice of habit, and to choose which one you follow. You are allowed to rest, even when the world keeps scrolling. Somewhere out there, across cities and time zones, millions of people are still awake, still posting, still messaging,
still feeding the great river of digital information. The world does not stop at night. But you can stop. You can step out of that river, dry yourself off, and sit by the fire. You can let the world continue without your participation. It will be there tomorrow. The messages will wait. The feeds will refresh. Nothing essential will be lost by your absence. But something essential will be gained. Rest. True rest. The kind that comes only when you are no longer monitoring, no longer performing, no longer available to every demand. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is fullness without noise. In the absence of notifications, of voices, of digital chatter, there is space for something else to emerge. Your own thoughts, slow and unhurried. Your own feelings, allowed to be felt rather than immediately distracted from. Your own presence, the simple fact of being alive, breathing, occupying this moment. This is not nothing. This is everything. This is the ground from which all genuine creativity, all genuine connection, all genuine peace arises. You are already complete. You do not need to check anything to be whole. You were born complete. As a child, before you knew what a notification was, before you had any concept of being online or connected or up to date, you were whole. That wholeness has not gone anywhere. It has only been obscured by layers of conditioning, by the belief that your worth depends on external validation, on being seen, on being responded to. But underneath all of that, the original wholeness remains. Right now, in this moment, without checking a single thing, without achieving anything, without proving anything, you are enough. Let that truth sink in, slowly, like warm water soaking into cold earth. This breath is enough. This moment is enough. You are enough. Not because you have accomplished something, not because you have met some standard, but simply because you exist. Because you are here. Because awareness is happening through you, experiencing this room, this rain, this stillness. That is a miracle, though we have grown so accustomed to it that we forget to notice. But tonight, notice. You are alive, conscious, capable of experiencing this moment. That is enough. That is more than enough. You are allowed to be unreachable, and you are still completely safe. Your ancestors lived for thousands of generations without the ability to be contacted at any moment. They went about their days, their weeks, their entire lives, and there were long stretches when no one knew where they were or what they were doing. And they were safe. They survived. They thrived. The constant reachability that we now take for granted is an aberration, a very recent development in the long story of human existence. You can set it down. You can be unreachable for an evening, for a night, for hours at a time. The people who care about you will understand. The people who do not understand are not entitled to your constant availability. Your peace, your rest, your ability to be present to your own life, these are not luxuries, they are necessities. Recent research in sleep science and psychology confirms what Marcus Aurelius and the Buddha understood through direct experience. Creating a small, sacred ritual around disconnecting from devices improves sleep quality, reduces anxiety, and enhances overall well-being.
When you consistently mark the transition from connected time to rest time with a deliberate practice, setting the phone down, taking a few deep breaths, speaking a few grounding words to yourself, your nervous system begins to learn that it is safe to let go. The ritual becomes a signal. It is time to stop monitoring, stop performing, stop being on call. It is time to simply be. You can imagine this ritual becoming part of your life, night after night. You arrive home from the demands of the day. Before you do anything else, before you check one more message or scroll through one more feed, you find a place to set the phone down, a specific place. Perhaps a basket by the door, or a drawer in the kitchen, or the table in your bedroom. You place it there with intention. You say quietly, "I am done for today. I am here now." And then you turn away and give yourself permission to be unreachable until tomorrow. What might change if you did this? What space might open in your life? Perhaps you would read more, the kind of slow, deep reading that requires sustained attention. Perhaps you would have longer conversations, the kind that meander and deepen and reveal things that hurried exchanges never touch. Perhaps you would simply sit more often, doing nothing in particular, letting your mind wander where it will, discovering thoughts and feelings and memories that have been waiting for a quiet moment to surface. Perhaps you would sleep more deeply, your dreams less fractured by the phantom buzzing of a device that is no longer in your room. As you rest here now, imagine waking tomorrow morning. The first thing you become aware of is the light, the texture of the sheets, the temperature of the air. You lie there for a moment, not reaching for anything, just feeling the fact of being awake, being alive. When you are ready, you rise and begin your day, and only after you have grounded yourself, with a few breaths or a glass of water or a moment looking out the window, only then do you retrieve your phone. You check it not from compulsion, but from choice. You use the device, but you are not used by it. This is the vision. This is the possibility. Not perfection, but freedom. Not the absence of technology, but a transformed relationship with it. A relationship where you are the one in control, where your peace does not depend on the whims of an algorithm or the habits of others, where you can participate in the digital world when it serves you, and step away from it when it does not, where you remember again and again that you are more than your notifications, more than your responsiveness, more than the sum of your online interactions. You are a whole human being, with a body that needs rest, and a mind that needs space, and a spirit that needs silence. Continue to breathe, slowly and deeply. Continue to listen to the rain. Let your body sink even more fully into rest. Let your mind drift where it will, knowing that you are safe, that you are held, that there is nothing you need to do right now except be here. The notifications can wait. The world can wait. For these hours, you belong only to yourself. The night is now deep. You have been in this library for a long time, though the sense of clock time may have loosened its hold on you. Minutes have stretched and softened, flowing into one another like ink in water. The rain outside has grown lighter, a fine mist against the windows, and there are longer pauses between the distant rumbles of thunder. Inside, most of the candles have burned low. A few remain, their flames small but steady, casting long, gentle shadows across the shelves and the wooden floor. You are resting more fully now, perhaps barely awake, drifting in that liminal space where thoughts dissolve into images and images into dreams. This is the perfect moment to turn toward the most profound questions of the night, not with the sharpness of daytime analysis, but with the softness of a mind ready to release, ready to surrender to sleep. We have spoken of notifications, of cravings, of the dichotomy of control, of the middle way. We have watched the phone become just an object on the table, its glow dimmed, its power over you gently reduced. We have listened to Marcus Aurelius and the Buddha, each in their own language remind you that peace is an inside work, a matter of how you relate to events rather than the events themselves. Now we return to you, to your life, to the quiet, wordless truth of who you are when all devices are put away. Who are you when no one is watching, when no one is texting, when no one is scrolling you? This question hovers in the air of the library like a soft bell tone, still ringing long after it has been struck. So much of modern life is lived in view of others, or with the possibility of being seen at any moment. Messages create a constant, invisible audience. Social platforms turn everyday moments into potential performances. Even your private reactions to notifications, the quickening of your heart, the tightening of your chest, the rush to respond, are often shaped by how you imagine others will perceive you. But here, in this room, with your phone resting on the table and your body sinking into rest, the audience has disappeared. There is no one to impress, no one to reassure, no one to keep updated. The characters in your mind, the colleagues, friends, family members, acquaintances, strangers online, all fade to the edges of your awareness. They are not gone, they are simply not here. What remains? You. Just you. Your breath, your body, your awareness. The simple, undeniable fact that you exist. For Marcus, this inner self was the ruling faculty, the part of you capable of reason, capable of choosing your response to any situation. He believed that this inner citadel, as some Stoics called it, is inviolable. No external event, no opinion of others, no flood of information can touch its essence unless you open the gates. Even when the world presses in, demanding attention, demanding reaction, there is always a small space inside you where you can step back and choose. That space is who you really are. For the Buddha, the self is more fluid, less a fixed entity, and more a continuous process of arising and passing experiences. Thoughts appear, sensations appear, feelings appear. You label them, you cling to them, you build stories around them, and out of this, a sense of me seems to solidify. But if you look closely, through the gentle lens of meditation, you see that this solid self is an illusion. There is no single thing you can point to and say, "This is me, unchanging, permanent." Instead, there is awareness. There is knowing. There is the simple, spacious presence in which all experiences unfold. These perspectives may seem different, but in your experience, they converge. Whether you think of yourself as a stable inner citadel or as a spacious awareness, the effect is the same when you rest in it. You are less identified with the pings and pulls of the world. Notifications become weather passing through your sky, not commands inscribed on your being. You feel the tug, but you also feel the space in which the tug arises. And in that space, you are free. What if the quiet between notifications is where real life actually unfolds? Consider how much of your day is spent in reaction. A message appears, you respond. A headline appears, you react. A post appears, you compare. The mind jumps from one stimulus to the next, stitching together a sense of continuity from fragments. But what about the moments when nothing is happening on your screen? The gaps between pings, the stretches of time when no one is reaching out, when no new information is arriving. Often, those are the moments that feel uncomfortable. Boredom arises. Restlessness stirs. The mind looks for something to fill the space. But looked at from another angle, those are also the moments when your own life, unmediated, unperformed, is most available to you. The feeling of the chair beneath you, the taste of your tea, the way light falls across a wall, the subtle texture of your own emotions as they ebb and flow, independent of external prompts. The quiet insights that appear when you are not busy reacting to the latest alert. Marcus spent many hours alone with his thoughts, writing not for an audience, but as a way of conversing with himself. The Buddha spent many hours alone under trees, watching his breath, watching his mind, discovering the patterns that create suffering and the way to release them. Neither of them had notifications, but both understood the value of uninterrupted time, of undistracted presence. In our world, such time still exists. It is simply hidden beneath layers of habit and expectation. You can uncover it by choosing, again and again, not to fill every silence with a sound, not to fill every pause with a screen. What if you are already enough, even in complete stillness? This question gently challenges one of the deepest assumptions driving notification anxiety, the belief that your value is tied to your activity, your responsiveness, your visible engagement with others. The more you do, the more you reply, the more you share, the more you seem to matter. The quieter you become, the more you fear fading from others' awareness and from your own. But the teachings of both Stoicism and Buddhism point in another direction. Your worth, they suggest, is not something you earn by endless doing. It is something inherent, something that exists simply by virtue of your being a conscious participant in this vast universe. Marcus would say that you are a fragment of the Logos, the rational principle that orders the cosmos, and that your dignified participation in this order is what gives your life meaning, not the number of tasks you complete or messages you answer. The Buddha would say that your true nature is already luminous, already pure, already free, obscured only by the dust of ignorance and craving that settles on the surface of your mind. Imagine for a moment that no one could ever contact you again. No messages, no calls, no notifications. Would you cease to exist? Would you become less real, less worthy? Of course not. You would still be here, breathing, thinking, feeling, experiencing. Your existence is not contingent on being seen or summoned. The pings of your phone do not create your life. They only intersect with it. Your life is here, now, in the rhythm of your breath, in the beating of your heart, in the simple sensation of lying where you are, listening to these words. For these traditions, the deepest freedom is not out there in some perfectly organized external life where no one ever bothers you and no notifications ever appear. The deepest freedom is in here, in how you relate to each thought, each urge, each ping.
A notification appears. You notice it. You feel the urge to check. You notice that too. You may choose to check, or you may choose not to. In either case, the important thing is that you have noticed, that you are not moving in blindness. This noticing, this gentle vigilance, is like a light in the library of your mind.
It illuminates the stacks of your habits and reactions, revealing where you have been moving on autopilot. With this light on, you can navigate more consciously. You can decide which shelves to visit and which to leave in shadow for now. You can choose which books to open and which to let gather dust. You are no longer pulled helplessly from one aisle to another by unseen forces. You move slowly, deliberately, guided by your own values and by the quiet wisdom of teachers who walked this path long before you. Let yourself imagine, as your breathing deepens and your muscles grow heavy with approaching sleep, a world where nights belong again to rest. A world in which it is normal, expected, even honored to turn off devices after a certain hour and to withdraw into the sanctuary of your own being. In this world, bedrooms are quiet. The last light many people see before sleep is not the blue glow of a screen, but the warm flicker of a candle or the soft dimness of a lamp. Conversations slow as the evening deepens and then give way to comfortable silence. People go to bed not with the latest outrage or worry fresh in their minds, but with a sense of completion for the day, however imperfect, and a gentle readiness to let go. In such a world, waking in the night does not automatically trigger a reach for the phone. Instead, it might be an opportunity to feel the coolness of the air, to listen to the distant hush of the world, to place a hand on your own chest and feel your heart still beating steadily, faithfully. A reminder that life continues even when you are not watching, even when you are not responding, that you are held by forces much larger than any network or platform. Gravity, breath, the turning of the earth. Imagine, too, a mind that can notice the urge to check the phone and simply smile. Not a smile of superiority or contempt, but a smile of recognition. Ah, there you are again. You might say inwardly to the urge, "Old friend, I know you well." And then, without drama, without struggle, you return to your book, your conversation, your walk, your breath. The urge passes, as it always does when it is not fed. You have not won a battle. You have simply chosen not to start one. Picture the library as it would be if no device had ever entered it. The only notifications are the soft sounds of rain and turning pages, the creak of wood as the building settles, the occasional distant footstep of the unseen caretaker. Time moves differently here. Hours stretch into vast, quiet expanses in which thought can deepen, feeling can unfold, and being can simply be. This place lives inside you, too. It is not dependent on architecture or weather. It is a state of mind, a way of relating to your own experience. Each time you set your phone down, each time you choose silence over noise, each time you breathe instead of reacting, you are entering this inner library. The most profound shift begins when you realize you are allowed to be unreachable and still be completely safe. You are allowed to let messages wait. You are allowed to miss updates. You are allowed not to know for a while what is happening in the endless elsewhere of the internet. You are allowed, in other words, to be here, in this breath, in this body, in this bed, in this moment and nowhere else. You are allowed to be here in this breath and nowhere else. Let that permission sink in. Let it move through you like a gentle wave, loosening the last places where you are still holding on, still bracing, still monitoring. You do not have to track anything right now. You do not have to manage anything. The night is vast. The library is quiet. The rain is soft. Your only task is to rest. And so we arrive at the end of this long, slow journey together.
the 3 hours we set aside have nearly passed, though their edges may have blurred for you, merging into something softer than ordinary time. The candles in the library are now tiny points of light, some of them mere embers in pools of cooling wax. The rain outside has become a fine mist, barely more than a caress against the glass. Dawn is still far away, but there is a sense that the night has done its work, that something in you has been washed clean, or at least gently rinsed. We began with a familiar tension, the restless, glowing phone in the dark, calling you back again and again with its pings and alerts and silent promises of connection. We named the anxiety that arises from this, the sense of being perpetually on call, perpetually behind, perpetually at the mercy of other people's timings and demands. We acknowledged the exhaustion that comes from living in this constant state of readiness, never fully resting, never fully arriving in the moment you are in. Then we walked slowly through the teachings of 2 ancient paths. From Marcus Aurelius and the Stoics, we learned the power of the dichotomy of control, the liberation that comes from focusing your energy only on what is truly yours, your choices, your judgments, your responses, and letting the rest be as it is. We saw how this applies directly to notifications. You cannot control when they come or what they contain, but you can, always, in every moment, choose how to meet them. From the Buddha and the traditions that followed him, we learned to see the craving mind in action, the thirst for certainty, for updates, for stimulation, for reassurance. We practiced, in imagination, the art of simply noticing this craving without immediately obeying it, of letting urges arise and pass like waves on the surface of a vast, deep sea. We touched the middle way, neither drowning in constant digital indulgence nor fleeing all technology, but finding that narrow, spacious path where tools remain tools and you remain free.
Together, these teachings pointed us toward a quiet revolution, not a dramatic renunciation, not a grand statement, but a series of small, repeated acts of remembering. Remembering to pause before you check. Remembering to breathe before you respond. Remembering to ask why you are reaching for your phone. Remembering that you are more than your messages, more than your metrics, more than your availability. We entered into a nightly ritual here in this imagined library, placing the phone gently on the table between Marcus and the Buddha, watching its screen dim, walking away. We felt the mixture of anxiety and relief that comes when you set down something you have carried for a very long time. We turned our attention to the simplest things: breath, sound, the feeling of being supported. We repeated to ourselves like mantras, truths that your deeper self has always known. You do not have to answer every call of your mind. You are allowed to rest while the world keeps scrolling. Silence is not emptiness, but the place you return to yourself. Perhaps, somewhere along the way, a realization began to dawn, quiet and almost shy, that the fear of missing out in all its forms has never really been about events or information. Perhaps the fear of missing out was really a fear of meeting yourself, here in the silence, without the familiar armor of busyness and responsiveness. To sit alone in a room, unreachable, unoccupied, present only to your own breath and your own awareness, can feel, at first, like standing on the edge of a great unknown. Who will you find there, if not the version of yourself reflected back by others? Tonight, you have lingered on that edge for a while. You have taken a few steps inward. You have felt, maybe, that the unknown is not empty after all. It is filled with you, with your own thoughts, your own feelings,
your own quiet, unperformed existence. No one else can live this life for you. No one else can rest for you. No one else can inhabit your body, breathe your breath, sleep your sleep. There are no perfect answers here. Technology will not vanish. Notifications will still come. Some nights you will forget the ritual and find yourself scrolling long past the hour you meant to be asleep. Some mornings you will reach for your phone before you remember to reach for your own presence. This is not failure. This is just the path, with its curves and backtracks and gentle corrections. What you have now, if you allow yourself to claim it, is not a rigid rule, but a set of practices. You can choose tonight and tomorrow and the next day to treat your attention as something precious. You can choose to mark the boundary between the world's time and your own with small, sacred gestures, placing the phone down, turning toward your breath, listening to the rain. You can choose again and again to believe that you are enough even when you are not responding, not performing, not visible to anyone but yourself. The world can wait. Your mind can rest. Tonight, philosophy watches over you as you sleep, not as an abstract system of ideas, but as a quiet companionship, a hand on your shoulder in the dark, a reminder that countless others before you have wrestled with restlessness and found their way to peace. Let the last of these words drift away now like smoke from the final candle in the library. All that remains is the soft sound of your own breathing, the gentle rhythm of your heart, the vast, supporting silence that holds you. You are here. You are safe. You are allowed to let go. Sleep.